Pukeology Podcast, where science meets your hilarious puke stories and the tips and tricks to stop that chuckle that you need.
You never know what's going to spew out of her mouth. Here's
my mama,
Dr. Pukeology.
Hey, it's your birthday. Literally, your birthing day, and you finally get to meet your beautiful baby for the very first time. It's an amazing experience, but it might not always go exactly as planned. Get to know the common birthing lingo, types of labor, and recommendations to better prepare you for anything when you're having your first birthday party. In today's Pregnancy Pukeology Podcast, episode 39, Labor and Delivery and What to Expect. Do you want no more morning sickness, pregnancy nausea, or how about no more headaches or migraines? Visit our sponsor, nomonausea.com, the only natural way to instantly stop your worst nausea, vomiting, or headaches now. Or just place No More Nausea Band on your baby registry for your delivery bag at Bye Bye Baby, or get it shipped for you for free in 2 days on Amazon as a Prime vendor. And just note that Nomo always has your little ones taken care of with the first ever Nomo Nausea Kids and Nomo Sleepless Nights Kids, a great way to get your child sleeping each and every night naturally, and grab it at your local CVS store. Do you want hilarious pregnancy humor that may just make you want to pee your pants? Like you don't have to pee all the time anyway, with stories like poop shoot, bouncing barf, and upchuck anesthesia. If you want to learn more about your pregnancy, humor and knowledge is the key to help you survive these 9 months. And just know we're in this together. Today, you will learn the science behind the Bradley method of delivering, the pros and cons of water birth, and what is a precipitous labor, and do you really want one? I also will give you 10 natural ways to help relieve your labor pains and the inside scoop on what really works. Stay tuned for all of this on Pregnancy Pukeology Podcast, episode 39, What to Expect When You're Delivering.
The science of puke, pukeology.
The beautiful process of giving birth is birthing. If you've already given birth, you can understand that it's not easy, sister. Can I get an amen? No matter how amazing your birth plan is, how comfortable you are, unforeseen things can come up because it's really their birthday and your birthday will soon be forgotten. How many of you have children and are known as, insert your child's name here's mom? For example, I've been known as Logan's mom or Mia's mom basically since they were born. Look at your cell phone. See how many moms that are actually have their kids' names saved. For example, if you are Sophia's mom underneath or Sophia's mom at such school, you have lost your identity. But just get ready because the birthday of their actual delivery is the first that you'll get to see it. Trust me, when you become a mom, you stop being selfish and you become completely selfless, and it's all for them. If this is your first baby, yay, then you will really need to be acquainted with how to get prepared, how to be ready to face anything. And knowledge is truly the key to help you through this. And know that we are in this together because your best friend, me, is a doctor. This article will help to provide you with tips on various birthing plans and how you can use those in the birthing suite to make things work out seamlessly throughout any potential health complications. So let's first talk about precipitous labor. First off, most of the time when women are actually laboring, you have to understand that labor pains are pretty bad, and most of them aren't really thinking, hey, do I want an epidural or do I want to go natural? Most moms who are ready to go natural have no idea what type of pain. I always like to say, so imagine that a watermelon is coming out of your vagina. You are going to be in pain, and most of you will actually rip. We have an entire Pregnancy Pukeology podcast dedicated to vaginal tears just a few podcasts ago. So if you really want to find out what it's really like in the aftermath, I just want to give you a heads up that you may want to consider and have a plan A, B, and C. So Normal labor pain can go for some time. We actually consider it the difference between passive labor and active labor. So passive labor is going to be when you are laboring and you're contracting, it still hurts, but your cervix is not dilated all the way up to 10. Now, whenever that becomes truly active, you are ready to give birth and your cervix is now nice, wide, and open. The normal labor pain will start to increase in intensity and frequency, hence why they say whenever you feel your contractions at 5 minutes apart, you need to make sure that you're headed to the hospital and that somebody else is driving, because it can go from 0 to 60 real quick. Didn't Drake teach us that? Oh, 0 to 100, real quick. There you go. During the first pregnancy, a normal labor can take on average of 12 to 18 hours, while in subsequent pregnancies, labor can go up to about 6 hours. So notice that it cut itself in almost half. However, in a precipitous labor, women experience labor for way shorter periods of time, a shorter duration of about 3 hours, resulting in the delivery of a baby. Whew! 3 hours sounds like a long time, but it's actually not. Imagine if every child were to come out in 3 hours, labor and delivery would be stacked and they wouldn't be able to time the different groupings of babies. So you are most likely to have a precipitous labor if you have low maternal age, so if you're young, if you've had prior vaginal deliveries, if you have a baby that has a little bit of a low infant growth rate or a small baby, or if you have any type of underlying hypertensive condition such as preeclampsia. It is most important to note that you can have all of these factors and still fail to have a rapid delivery. At the same time, you can lack the above factors and still have a rapid delivery. Remember when I said it was their birthday and not yours? Your baby will decide when, where, and at what time frame it really wants to come out. Some of the symptoms that you may experience during a precipitous labor and delivery are abrupt contractions, and they are very, very strong, extremely close to one another, and they don't really give you a break in between each one. You'll have a strong urge to push and pain throughout the contraction. You may think that rapid labor is best because, hey, you're going to give birth fast, but it also comes with some difficulties and some other types of problems. Some of the problems that you may experience with precipitous labor include increased risk of perineal and or cervical or vaginal tear. You can also have an increased risk of not having enough time to be able to get an epidural if that was something that was important for you. So if you know that you had a really fast baby before, you may want to consider getting an epidural before you are truly starting to dilate. Other issues with precipitous labor include an increased chance of excess bleeding, increased risk of maternal or inborn infection when you give birth in an unsterile condition. So if you're giving birth inside of a suite, a birthing suite, and or you're giving birth inside of a place that may or may not have been, that's not under a hospital watch, for example, and hasn't had proper sanitation, a fast delivery can actually end up bringing in unwanted bacteria and infection. They will continuously check your thermometer and with a thermometer your temperature to make sure that you and your baby aren't getting a fever. If you are getting a fever, hanging IV antibiotics is imperative that it happens immediately. Now, a forceps delivery. Most of the time, you may have a spontaneous onset labor, which continues progressively until the birth canal is adequate to give way for the passing of the baby. Occasionally, this doesn't happen, and the labor can be poorly progressive or prolonged more so than normal. And if at that point in time the baby's life is threatened, then they may consider what's called a forceps delivery. It's an assisted delivery method. Basically, it's applying traction of force to the baby's head while the mother is pushing. So the claw, right? Think of it like that. And or they do also have different types of suction available where imagine a very large suction cup goes on the baby's head and then it helps to pull the baby out. Remember how we said when the baby goes rapid, your body doesn't have enough time. And if you haven't had an episiotomy, which is the cut between the vagina and your anus, you may end up ripping naturally that far just because of the fact that your body doesn't have enough time to be able to really adapt to the change that's happening, and their shoulders are pretty large. Let me just let you know. So if you thought the head was big, just wait for the shoulders to come out. The Bradley method of delivery teaches natural childbirth and views birth as a natural process. It provides systematic, natural labor techniques, which expectant mothers and her trainers can take an active role. For many women, it is a simple method of increasing self-awareness, teaching a woman how to deal with labor stress by turning and really understanding their own body. It empowers mothers to trust their bodies using natural forms of relaxation, breathing exercises in different positioning, education, and nutrition. So for all of my mamas who are natural mamas, this is something that you may want to try. So go and search up Bradley method if you have more questions. But it's really interesting. A lot of doulas especially will end up preferring the Bradley method because it turns the mother into the owner of the actual birthing process of what's going on. Water birth. A water birth is so cool. I have to say that I wish I would have done a water birth with one of my children, but unfortunately my second baby was a true emergency C-section. So even though I had no complications with my vaginal delivery, anything can happen on the second one. So each birthing experience is very unique. So what a water birth it aims of easing and minimizing labor pains. So you and your healthcare provider will continuously direct you on how to make use in best form in fashion of a water birth and for how long. It's basically simply a birthing pool filled with nice warm water. Think of a bathtub. A little bit larger than that, especially when it's actually inside of your hospital. And that's another question that you'll want to ask your hospital. If water birth is something that you absolutely want to do, it decreases the pain. Think of it as your baby is going from one hot tub to another, and it decreases the risk of having to have intervention from anesthesia. So you can always ask for a water birth. The first stage of labor is recommended duration to use this birthing pool. It will help you ease your labor pains, keep you away from actual anesthetic, which is the epidural itself, and make your labor faster for a quicker delivery, just because of the fact that anything is well lubricated. Think about it in the pool, right? If you were outside, you would have a lot more friction if you tried to slide out of anything versus inside of a pool, you can slide very easily, and some of us may even feel like slimy seals. What do you think your baby is? A nice, beautiful little slimy seal. Cesarean sections and the trial of labor after a cesarean, which is also called a VBAC, is going to be the next set so that you can understand, okay, there is a risk of having it. And in the United States, I can tell you that about 50% of mothers end up getting a cesarean section for one reason or another. So we really need to determine the definitions between an urgent and an emergent C-section. Due to the fear of labor pains and also these terrible old wives' tales stating that your vagina will never go back to the way it was, which is crazy because yes, it will. Some women opt for a cesarean section the entire pregnancy. They're like, nope, I want to be cut. It's a C-section. Ladies, this is a major surgery. Again, a cesarean section, you are literally cutting layers of skin, muscles. They are removing your organs, flopping them on top of your stomach, and then removing the child after they're able to cut through. You'll hear the suction for the water bag. So this is a major operation, and it is also a major recovery. I was up and about. Most of us recommend after regular vaginal birth, 2 weeks or so, that you'll kind of take it easy. I was out for 6 good weeks after my emergency section. So I have to tell you that if I could choose one, go natural all the way. Our bodies are made for it, and don't hear or don't listen to all of the other rumors. They're just not true. So cesarean sections are normally suggested when women are going through abnormal childbirth. They are progressive in labor. They're just not laboring at all. Their cervix won't dilate for some reason. Maybe their hips are disjointed and or their hip birthing canal is too small for the baby to actually come out in that way. If at all it appears that the life of the mother and the baby is threatened, 100% of healthcare providers will elect a C-section. Now, there's a difference between an urgent C-section and an emergent C-section. An urgent C-section is, as the name implied, we need to get the baby out as soon as possible so that mom and baby are not necessarily in danger at this very time. So it could be, hey, listen, she's not progressing long enough, and or, we're really just, this baby has been constantly laboring, we're just not able to get the baby to come down for whatever reason. We may elect a C-section, and that's considered urgent. It means it's going to be going within the next hour or so, and it's urgent because we really do need to go, but it's not a mad dash to the back of the operating room. Sometimes your OBGYN will recommend a cesarean because you have been laboring too long, or that the baby's heart rate drops with every contraction and push. But I hate to tell you that mainly it's because of shift change. Ooh, was I not supposed to say that? Oh my goodness. Well, in the hospital, the witching hour is always between 5 to 7 p.m. and 5 to 7 a.m. That's really when we call shift change. And I hate to say it, but it is faster. You can cut a baby out much quicker than you can waiting there for 2 hours to deliver a baby. So I can tell you that once your water is broken, you can safely labor for up to 24 hours. They will be continuously recording your temperature frequently for fear of infection. And after 24 hours, it is just not safe because of the risk of infection threatens your life and your precious child's life too much. So they won't let you labor after that. And that's only when your water breaks. So 24 hours after your water breaks. I just wanted to make sure that I made that extremely clear. Emergent C-section. An emergency section is an emergency. It means that we need to get the baby out stat right away because it threatens both of their lives. The most common reason for an emergent C-section is a prolapsed umbilical cord, meaning that the cord drops through the cervix and into the vagina before the baby does. Now, the umbilical cord is the cord, the life-giving cord. It gives your baby everything from oxygen, nutrients, anything and everything. So imagine if you cut that off, your baby won't be able to breathe. Think of it like that whenever they're still inside, even though you are going through the delivery process. The second most common is maternal hemorrhage. The mother is bleeding out. We can't have a mom bleed out. The normal range is between 500 to a liter of blood, and that's how much your body actually ends up gaining that much more fluid. Hence why moms say, I have cankles. Well, it's because your body is preparing you to lose that much in blood loss and fluid and things like that whenever you deliver. But it's not ready for you to lose 2 and 3 liters of blood. You're going to be losing your entire body volume of blood here pretty soon. So we need to get the baby out immediately. Placental abruption is the third most common, meaning that the placenta peels away from the walls of the uterus. The fourth, uterine rupture. Your uterus tears along your previous C-section scar, or your uterus tears, which is very uncommon, it's very, very, very uncommon to have your uterus just rupture for no good reason, unless you're a mom that has a lot of things like fibroids, uterine fibroids, and has other issues that are underlying that have been there the entire time. But especially if you've already had a previous C-section scar, remember, your uterus is a muscle. It was stitched back together. And so you have to remember that it's still weak in that area. I personally still can't do crunches without me feeling like, oof, I get a zing of pain inside my abdomen. And that's from my C-section. This is why most OBGYNs favor a scheduled C-section after you have already had one in order to avoid all of the different items that I've just discussed. If you're interested in learning, though, about alternatives like a VBAC, which is a vaginal birth after a cesarean section, listen to Pregnancy Pukeology Podcast, episode 21. What is a VBAC? And trust me, I'll tell you all about it. Now, the trial of labor after a cesarean, which is the delivery attempt to deliver vaginally like we just talked about, You need to make sure that your OBGYN, your doctor, or your midwife is comfortable performing this. Same thing with a version. If you have a baby who's kind of upside down, if you've already had a prior C-section, your doctor may not feel comfortable doing a version or trying to flip the baby around to allow for you to have a vaginal delivery just because of your weakened muscle in nature. So you should always make sure that you talk to your doctor or midwife. If you are going to schedule a VBAC, please do it inside of a healthcare facility, a hospital that can offer an urgent cesarean delivery in case of unexpected complications. You don't want your baby to have lifelong effects due to the fact that you just wanted to have what you wanted. Think of your child and make sure that you always think that your healthcare providers are going to do what's best to give you and your baby a safe outcome in the end.
Growing up on a Tuesday? One puke story.
I honestly did not know that it was super common to poop while giving birth. I guess they left that part out in my Lamaze class. I was focusing on my breathing when I smelled the most foul smelling after a contraction. We had a mirror, so my husband started dry heaving when he saw the soft serve brown stuff. Once he started, I started because I got sick. I am one of those people that gets sick when anyone else is puking around me. The good news is the intense push from vomiting helped to get my little girl out quicker. Thanks, Marie Mama 7, for that hilarious puke story. Wow, soft serve brown stuff. I'm really going to have trouble eating chocolate ice cream after that story. I was trying to wait for the epidural, and I thought that I would give a birthing ball a shot. My wife is super supportive and was doing squats next to me to help me. I guess I shook up my bowels when I was bouncing. Bouncy, 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 bouncy. She said I looked up at her with these wide eyes and started throwing up all over myself. I hope they sanitize those balls real well for the next poor girl. Thanks to Ashes for that hilarious birthing story. I must say, every time I go inside and do an epidural on a patient, I'm going to think of those birthing balls and hope that they have been sanitized even better because of that story. My anesthesiologist was so hot. P.S. I hope that's what people say about me. So I was trying to be the best patient on the planet. I got into position and the epidural was placed awesome. I didn't even feel my next contraction. I laid down and almost instantly started vomiting all over my gown. Ew. He said it was okay and it was a normal response to a low blood pressure after inserting the epidural. But I still wished he could have told me. I was so embarrassed because this guy looks like the Grey's Anatomy look-alike. So all of my dinner came up from last night. I called him in a few times later just so that I could get a good look again. Thanks, Tina Ma 28 for that hilarious puke story. And girl, if you're ever on my floor, you better not wake me up in the middle of the night. Do you have a hilarious pregnancy story that you just can't wait to share? Send it to me. Pukeology, Pukeology at nomonausea.com, nomonausea.com, or tweet me at Pukeology so we can all have a good laugh.
Tips and tricks to stop the up chuckle that you need.
So let's get the skinny on a real birthing ball. So will a birthing ball actually help to induce labor? A birthing ball is an essential exercise ball that's made up of elastic and durable material, same that you would use in yoga or workouts, and can be used in labor as well, or even after birth. They are preferred for comfort. They help to relieve back pain And again, the reason why they're relieving this back pain, think about it logically. You're actually activating your core. When the muscles in the front and back, think of them as kind of like sisters or sibling relationship. When one is working really hard, since I have 2 kids, I can tell you, the other one is usually not working that much, and vice versa. So again, it helps to alleviate that back pain by activating your core. And it's causing your sensory to kind of go off the charts. You're bouncing, and your brain has something else to focus on and not just the pain that it's sensing, whether you have back pain or whether you have high pressure in the vaginal area. You have to also remember that it decreases pelvic pressure. When you're on a bed, you're kind of stationary. Hence why, elderly get really bad pressure sores, or people who are sitting for long periods of time and are not moving, they develop these horrible sores. Well, if you're on a birthing ball, you're decreasing that pelvic pressure. And it also sometimes may actually shorten your labor. Now, there's no physical scientific evidence that birthing balls can help to induce labor, but they're great for once you're already starting. Squatting. Get your squats in. Will that actually help to induce labor? Maybe. Squatting is an up and down movement of exercise that will help you to strengthen your pelvis. Gentle squats during pregnancy have been known to help with the onset of labor. These movements help the baby acquire a better position inside of the mother's womb and stimulates the dilation of cervix. Always ensure that the movements are not too deep or deep enough to cause injury. And remember that your body is naturally producing the hormone relaxin because it is relaxing your hips and moving them outward. So what used to feel comfortable, which is where your knees were in front of your toes, you might actually almost have to do like a plie, like a dancer's plie, where your feet are out a little bit more because your hips are so widely open. Just food for thought. Will walking help with labor? It actually does. So walking is a natural form of exercise. Brisk walking is adequate to trigger and induce labor. It is actually a release of oxytocin, or also known in the hospital, its other name is Pitocin. We hang Pitocin for women who are not laboring quick enough so that we can decrease the length of time that the baby comes out. So walking does the exact same thing. So walking will exert pressure on your cervix because remember, you're standing up, right? So the child is actually pushing down because of gravity. This can aid the baby in place into a better position and hence make the labor process more fast. It should also be done at a comfortable place. It does not mean to literally run on the treadmill when you are, 9 months and 30 days or whatever it is, on your 3rd month. That's not what I'm trying to say. I'm trying to say that walking around your house is just as beneficial because it's consistent. And that's exactly what you're trying to do, is consistently walking, especially the week that you're about to deliver. Now, I've got some really great ways to manage labor pains naturally. The first is change your position. We all of our babies are not that comfortable sleeping, right, on your back. Well, you shouldn't be sleeping on your back. You should have, right uterine displacement. So you should actually have kind of your uterus tilted either to one side or to the other. But again, remember that the baby is kind of like you and your personality. It has its own. So change positions. If it doesn't work really well when you're laying down and your knees are kind of, make your knees touch your elbows, instead, why don't you try flipping to one side or the other? I used to say that my aunt flipped me like a pancake, and it really did help to make my labor process go quicker, and it helped to save me from an emergency C-section. So I was very blessed that I ended up having my son vaginally. Another position is like a cat-cow. It's actually on all fours, and that's something else that some mothers do prefer, not just laying on their sides. Apply warmth. What does something warm do? Well, think about it. It's going to help to dilate everything. So the dilatation is what you want, the relaxation. Your uterus is contracting. It's a muscle, and how can you do that? You can help to relax it on the relaxation, the downtime, applying a little bit of warmth. Now, I do not recommend putting anything hot or cold on your body if you've already had an epidural because you cannot feel the temperature difference. I'm going to say that again. Do not put anything cold or hot on your body that's lower than your belly button down whenever you have an epidural because you're not going to be able to feel it, and you could literally have necrosis or your skin could, die in that area, and you just don't want that to happen. Music therapy is something that's amazing, and I feel like it is very underutilized. I would highly, highly, highly recommend bringing some of your favorite music. Your music might not be opera when the baby comes out. Your music might be like me. I love Janet Jackson. I was jamming to Janet Jackson. Salt and Pepper, Push It. Come on, ladies. We're all 80s and 90s babies. So most of us understand that that's the music that moves us. Well, let's move the baby down into the canal and out. Massage. Oh, massage. I can't explain it. Husbands, if you want to be amazing, you get 2 tennis balls and you roll those balls on your wife's back up and down, up and down. It is the most incredible feeling. You will actually want those tennis balls to be by you instead of your husband at some point in time of labor. Now, the TENS unit, which is really interesting because that's usually what you think of when people have really bad back pain. Well, the way that it works is it automatically, through nervous system stimulation, it stimulates a contraction on your back so you can actually help to contract it on your back and then relax. Now, doing that at low frequency can help to decrease the amount of back pain labor that you are experiencing. Hypnobirthing, also known as hypnosis, is another very common. I've never actually done it, nor am I certified in it, but it is actually really interesting. I've actually seen quite a few labor and delivery that are well versed in hypnobirthing, and it's amazing. The women actually are in a trance-like state, and they are able to do just about anything, and without any drugs or anesthesia. Relaxation, breathing techniques, that's another one. And while you are relaxing and while you're working on your breathing techniques, and if you've gone to all your Lamaze classes, you know that just like yoga and just like Pilates, there is a certain method. It's not just, right? It's, and the reason why is because you don't want to expel everything you have in one forceful breath because then you won't have any left over. So you want to do it in slow, consistent, steady breaths out, just like I did with my voice. Homeopathy, again, that's another way. It is where you're taking different natural substances and breaking them down with basically diluting them to take them for different side effects of labor and delivery. So some, if you've ever heard of different areas or ways to help to stimulate birth and or to help the pain with birth, there's many different types of homeopathy that you can actually try, and it does work. Water therapy. We talked about water birthing already, so I won't go into that anymore, but just think, don't you relax when you get into a nice jacuzzi? Yeah, I do too. And then the last thing that can help to increase your breathing and steady and regulate your breathing techniques is going to be the aromatherapy of essential oils. Aromatic essential oils have medical grade entities that is good for. Hence why most of my moms end up wearing a no nausea band. It is a natural way, No Nausea Med Plus, it's found inside of hospitals, and it's a natural way to help the moms not get sick because 80% of women will puke during the delivery room, either from natural vaginal and or from the C-section. So aromatic oils that are actually located inside the band or that are located inside of your actual, those aromatic sprayers, make sure that your hospital is okay with them, but they can actually give off. Some use lavender. Some use all these other beautiful scents that can really help you to relax the body and to be able to enjoy the delivery room process even more. So you're probably wondering, which essential oil should I use? Here is a blog post specifically designed to answer those questions. Please check with your hospital if scents are okay, but always remember that hospitals will allow the No More Nausea Med Plus band because it has natural peppermint essential oil infused in an acupressure wristband and is used by many labor and delivery suites. Does your hospital have them or not? That's something that you're going to have to talk with your providers. I can tell you over 1,000, it's considered standard of care in over 1,000 different hospitals, and I hope you have them. And again, if your hospital doesn't, no big deal. Just put them on your baby registry and stick them inside of your hospital bag. I hate to tell you, but again, so many women do not understand that they will experience nausea, vomiting, or delivery. So don't be that statistic and just buy one. Here are some of the useful postpartum exercises. Don't worry about your pregnancy body shape and physical fitness. Actually, your body will go through a vigorous transformation after delivery, but you can always get your pre-pregnancy body back in shape. Do not engage too soon to push yourself too hard. You can give yourself time to recover. Most say about 6 weeks after a C-section. And if you really want to get your vagina back and with the normal, here are just a few suggestions. The suggestions are also coming from my pandemic puppy that I ended up getting, so I'm so sorry for that, but he just sometimes has to give you his point of view as well. If you're curious on how to get your vagina back, just log on to Pregnancy Pukeology Podcast episode 35, Perineal Tears and Tips to Get Your Vagina Back. Postpartum outcomes may vary from one mother to another. Hence, before you get back on an exercise routine, make sure that you have clearance from your healthcare provider. Now, you know the science behind labor and delivery, whether or not that you want a precipitous labor, what is to experience if you do have to have a C-section, and 10 amazing different ways to help decrease the amount of pain. Ultimately, I hope I gave you the best information about pregnancy and delivery that there is to date. If you love Pregnancy Pukeology Podcast, let us know with 5-star ratings for hearts or likes. Don't forget to download this episode, but more importantly, share it with all your prego friends. Thanks again for listening to Pregnancy Pukeology Podcast in Pregnancy, episode 39, Labor and Delivery, What to Expect When You're Expecting Even a Puppy.
Pukeology Podcast, edutainment at its finest.